Greetings, everybody, and welcome to episode 48 of the Sickcast, aka the Siblings in Cardboard podcast. I'm your host, Thomas, joined by my buddies slash co-hosts, Noah and Justin. Whether you're a veteran card gamer or the first time just testing the waters, we're all siblings in cardboard. Guys, how have you been this week? Did you do any flesh and blood things?
I don't know. Did you, Justin? Because I actually did. Crazy,
yeah, you actually did for once.
I know.
You started something. What'd you do?
Well, we went to Gigabyte on Saturday. Played Armory. I played Azalea. Andrew was there. So I borrowed his Azalea deck because I was still missing some Merc Myers, and there was a potential Prism. There didn't end up being a Prism, but
I heard about that.
yeah, it was nice. So I enjoyed it. It was super fun. It was so nice to play in paper again. I had a great time. Played against Zen. Played against the buy boss, which I bought boxes that turned out to be pretty good because that's what you do on a buy, you buy. And then I played Victor, which was an interesting matchup. So definitely wasn't as straightforward as I thought it was going to be. Still not really sure if I played any of that correctly. But it was fun nonetheless.
Who did I play in round one? Oh, I played Vincent. That's right. So I played Andrew Cook on Vincent, and then I played a Zen, and actually won against the Zen.
What were you on?
I was on Riptide. That's right. I was on Riptide.
Okay.
I just raced him because I want to test out the new cards. I like them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Line It Up and Stone Right. I actually think you just shove those 6 cards in and just take 6 cards out of Riptide, and your deck is better, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I just raced the Zen before they even saw an Art of War. And so
that's pretty good. We take those.
Just outvalued them, and they didn't get to play an Art of War. That's how it goes with ninjas. And then lost to the final boss of Georgia, Andrew Lorenz. He was on new. It's usually a pretty good matchup, but every time I threw an arrow for like 7, he had the Sink Blow and Arsenal. So it's like I basically didn't even have a weapon because Dreadboard did nothing the entire game. And every time I called him on having Justin Nick, he had it. So he just always had it every time I tried to call him on it, and I just got kind of rolled down. And I was going to try to play towards the longer game option and try to do Stone Rain stuff, which it worked on my other matchups. But he actually did a Leave No Witnesses and hit my only Remembrance. And so I was just like, yeah, this is over. There's like literally nothing I can do.
Is that when you slid off the table?
Yeah, that's when I like died and fell out of my chair. I'm just like, dude, when he played the 3rd Sink Blow from Arsenal after not getting punished for trying to Arsenal a Sink Blow, like I had such a full body feeling, like a visceral feeling of like, ugh, things can't go worse. Like it sent shivers all up my body. I was like, there's no way he's got the 3rd Sink Blow. He didn't manage to Arsenal all 3 of them with no punishment. And he's just like, Sink Blow from Arsenal. I'm like, oh, God, Andrew, why?
Dude, if you ever want to put somebody on Have It, don't put Andrew Lorenz on
don't
Have
put
It.
Andrew
That man
Lorenz
always
on Have
has
It.
it. Like, that man has, like, absolutely hit on... Well, when he hits really hard. And you're just like, all right, well, he just has it. Good job.
And then I played just one more for fun against a Victor afterwards. And of my games, Stone Rain with an aim counter was a significant factor in all 3 of my wins. Vincent, it was a little small, but the cool thing about it is I essentially just forced the Vincent to block with their last card. Because I shot it for 4 dominate, and they have one more card in their hand. They're just like, well, if I don't block, I don't get the card anyway. And that's great to me. I thought it felt great. And if I hadn't have done it, if I would have Arsenaled instead, I would have had a double Arsenal, and they would have been able to throw a widespread destruction and blow up a double Arsenal. So made the right call.
Oh, yeah. Destruction does hit both, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good card.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to consistently pitch to block 3+ rune chance and then block 6.
In your mostly redline deck?
Yeah.
Because you're playing like aggro Riptide? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was exactly my thought process. I'm like, I know I'm breaking gloves and shooting this for only 4 dominate, but if I don't, then I'm going to get blown out by widespread destruction if that's the last card in his hand, and it was.
Nice.
Okay. Did you do Kano things on Tuesday?
We haven't had that one yet. So we're actually going to play LL this week. So I've been building out decks for everybody. I'm bringing like Starbow cards, Oldhim cards. Somebody wants to try Chain. Somebody else is playing Oldhim. And then I think that leaves me with my Icelander deck, which makes me super happy because that's my favorite hero. And that format is so much fun. I love LL right now. It's interactive, it's powerful, but everybody's doing powerful things. It's so good.
Sounds like a good meta too, because you kind of have like almost every hero represented.
Yeah, and it can get really granular, I think, as people test for the Chicago calling, because that's a calling that they're doing. That's LL.
Mm-hmm.
I think the meta is going to narrow down a little bit, but as it narrows down, I think it's going to get really good for the decks that I like. Like, I think it's going to end up looking like really, really good for Oldhim and Icelander as things get tighter.
Can Oldhim actually like fatigue out the Zen? Does he have enough?
It turns out he doesn't like frostbites because he wants to be able to start his turn with just doing the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like if he wants to like double transcend, or if he wants to like just play the blue biting breeze, right? Holding the transcend card so he can do transcend stuff.
Well, he wants to pitch a transcend after he's made it, right?
Right, exactly. So like starting off with a frostbite on Winter's Wheel is pretty good, and then just having the threat of Ice React on their big pop-off turns is like, oh, you can't hold that. Like they play Aspect to Tiger Body, and they have one card left in hand. It's like, I wonder what that card is, and you just Ice React to chase the tail away.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, they can get got. So you're not really like fatiguing them per se, because you have the shield, you have things like that, but you are just trying to like slow the game down and make them play at your pace because they have a bunch of 2 blocks and you don't.
I feel like if I were going to play anything, it would be one of the ice heroes. So I'd play Oldhim or Icelander.
Yeah, and Channel of the Bleak Expanse might be the best card in LL right now.
Like the more I played that last week, yeah, it's good. Like just
the more I play with that card, the more insane it is in that format.
Turns out drawing cards in card games is good, and making your opponent lose the card that they wanted to draw cards with and not draw any cards is good as well.
Yeah. So that's what I've been up to.
Well, I mean, we broke Noah's streak of not playing at all, so I think it was a good week. And he didn't play Dorinthia.
We did.
No, I played Azalea. You got it. Azalea's fun. Azalea's
she is super fun. You got to play with like a tricked out deck too. You got to play with
dude, that deck. I keep telling him if he ever sells it, but he probably won't sell it till it LLs, and then I don't really want it. But God, dude, he's got the French cold foil Azalea, which is just great because I actually love the name. And then he's got the gold foil Death Dealer, and everything's just foiled out. Like it's just super cool. You know, just cold foil, Skullbone, Cross Wrap, and Snappies, because why not? Just nice things. So really fun.
All right. Before we move on, I just wanted to make sure we mentioned that on August 17th, this Saturday, it'll be a few days by the time this publishes, we're doing our Realm Rumble Invitational Qualifier. It starts at 10 a.m. at Level Up Duluth. Show up, be ready to play some Classic Constructed. We'll know how many rounds and what the full prize payout is once we know the full attendance. But the minimum payout's going to be a box of Part the Misfail and some hero sleeves for each of top 4. And then top 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th is going to be 6 packs, I think.
Yes.
And then there will be raffle of everything else. So all the
which leaves 3 boxes on raffle and a bunch of other crazy things that may or may happen. And we can always adjust pricing. So
yep. If we have a very large attendance, we get to bump up the pricing to the $1,000 prize payout. So we'll adjust things to actually give people cash. So come out. The more people we have, the more prize payout we get to pay out. All right, let's move on to the market minute. And hopefully I gave you enough warning to kind of maybe adjust your minute to be Aurora focused, since we want to talk about Aurora today.
Yeah, I talked about this briefly, I think, before we started recording. So Aurora Focus is kind of weird because we still don't know necessarily the full spoilers. We don't really know what all the Majestics are going to be included. And somebody so kindly had a deck list that they've been playing with, working around some Majestics and stuff like that. So I took from that, but I also just wanted to, I guess, make this if I wanted to play Aurora, what are my prices looking like, right? And so we're going to just go over some of the prices on pieces of gear mainly, and then I'll just comment quickly on 2 cards that are most likely just meta-driven Majestics that you're probably going to see in it. Full warning that you probably want to have a playset of Art of Wars and CNCs because you just need to have them. But Spellbound Creepers from Tales of Aria should be no surprise that I don't think they're ever going to print a better boot for Runeblades. Maybe there's some lightning boots that are.
They'll just give you an action point kind of on demand.
Yeah, I mean, who knows really what's gonna go on? I mean, she's got some cool looking boots on in the art. LSS loves their feet. There's no guarantees we don't get some boots. She also got some really sick arm guards too. So who knows? Could be something going on. Usually card art kind of matters. But Spellbound Creepers come from Tales of Aria. They are a Yu-Gi-Oh card with the amount of text they have, which is unfortunate. It's like the only card I think that has this much text.
It's like a Yu-Gi-Oh card almost.
It's wild.
It's super wordy, but when you play with it, it's simple.
Yeah. If you did this and this and this, do this. But if you didn't do this, then do this.
Right. And if you can't do it, you just get rid of the boots. They're just gone. They're Runeblade equipment legs. They're once per turn instant, pay 1, put a bind counter on Spellbound Creepers. You may play your next non-attack action card from this as though it were instant. Activate this ability only if you have attacked or defended with an attack action card this turn. And at the beginning of your end phase, you must destroy Spellbound Creepers unless you have dealt arcane damage this turn equal to or greater than the number of bind counters on Spellbound Creepers. Blade break, block for 1. And so basically they just kind of make it so the effect is really powerful, and so it has a drawback that you need to be dealing more arcane damage than you are using that to keep those boots, otherwise they kind of go. So you usually get about 1 or 2 uses. I think afterwards it becomes really, really hard to keep those boots.
On the floor, you get to play like Read the Runes and not end your turn, or you get to play Revel in Runeblood and get an extra action point. On the ceiling, you get to do it twice in a game.
Yeah, good luck getting it twice.
Yeah, usually it's once, and once is already so good. I mean, already.
Because you just usually cash it out like the next turn. You block 1 and your max value.
You're going to pay 1 to basically block 1 in comparison to Snapdragon Scalers.
Pretty good boots. They're sitting at $124 right now, which is actually pretty baseline. I think they're the highest they've been in terms of the spike. They've seen like a 4% increase in the recent month, but a little bit higher in like the 3-month period. They've never been like below 115. So 124 isn't necessarily like going through the roof, but these cards technically have a way of getting away from themselves, right? Like if these become the quintessential boots for most of the Runeblades, and they're just going to go up, I think people aren't necessarily pulling the trigger because they're worried that they're going to get a different boot. So why buy them if you don't need them, kind of a thing. So it's, I wouldn't say you necessarily need to sell out to get these boots, but I just don't know how there would be a better boot. And then you have them for another deck if you want to play it for like Vincent.
That being said, of all the Runeblades we've ever seen, I feel like Aurora might be the least likely to play them, right?
Yeah, so you could play snaps with that deck. We'll get into it more when we talk about the deck list later. But I think both boot options are fine. I think Creepers does some cool things, but they are both very good. Good cards are good. Who would have thought?
Yeah, I mean, but Snaps is free, where Creepers has a condition costs 1. And I feel like there's a possibility Aurora plays like very few non-attack actions. She plays just enough to trigger a few things here and there. but she's mainly revolving around just playing a lightning card, right?
Mhm.
And if you look
Yes.
at her first strike deck, and we'll talk about it more later, but there's you don't make a single rune chant in that. Like, it's a very
They didn't even give you the token.
yeah. It's not they don't even have a token in there. It's very different from what I
She's-
expected.
She's dealing
Mhm.
arcane damage in a different facet, which again, it might not necessarily, might be, like I said, why the boots necessarily aren't for her, or they're going to make something more tailored toward her. In another card we're going to talk about, shock charmers type sense, and even then, like
Yeah.
who, but I think it's still good to have it on the radar. The chance of one of those rune blades, if you wanted to play them both, not playing, even though they're Aurora focused, not running those spellbound creepers, is just it's probably really low. I mean, like, one of the rune blades is probably gonna end up using those boots.
Oh yeah, I think Florian for sure will use them. It
Yeah.
just has too many avenues where they're very, very potent.
Aurora
So-
might, but we'll see. We'll see where this ends up. We'll talk about it.
All right, what's
So the next card we're going to talk about is, I think, could be another one, because I think it has contention with Tunic, because I think Tunic's also really good. Just mana curve, or cost curve. But Dyadic Carapace, which I think is just pretty much needed because it has Arcane Barrier, it blocks for 2. So to me, I love this because Rune Blades deal arcane damage, and they also have physical attacks. And so this card literally has both block and Arcane Barrier. Now it is AB2, which if I think it was AB1, it'd probably be somehow even better. Like, I think it would actually be better with AB1 than if it had AB2.
you have good
in
access
some
to
cases.
AB1 already.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, rune blades
okay.
are kind of spoiled for good AB1,
Mm-hmm.
but it's
But-
fine.
But Dyadic Carapace, I think, is a must in this meta. Lot of rune chants and arcane damage is coming into the meta. How are you going to counteract that? Well, you have a chess piece that kind of does both. So Dyadic Carapace came out of Dusk Till Dawn, Arcane Barrier 2, Temper, blocks for 2, meaning you get 3 total block from it. It's so solid. It's seen a 3-month increase of over 80%. It used to be about a $17 card, if not cheaper, $15, and it peaked at about $35, and it slowly sank to about $30. So it dropped about $5. I think people have picked some up. Like, that initial spike is always really high. But it's still up there. I would grab one. I'm not going to talk about the extended art.
No. If you're
because
gonna play it,
It's
grab it.
vanity.
If you're gonna play
Yeah.
rune blades, you windmill slam Dyadic Carapace in every single rune blade deck from here on out.
That seems like a no-brainer.
Hmm.
Mention the next one. It is Shock Charmers, also from Tales of Aria. Who would have thought that as soon as we brought out elemental heroes, that they would be back? Lightning and Earth. It was only a matter of time. Now Tales is actually a sought-after set again. And then when Ice comes out, we're in full force. But Shock Charmers are a lightning equipment arms. They have no block. They are instant. Pay 2. The next time an attack action card you control hits a hero this turn, it deals 1 damage to them. Notice it just says 1 damage. It's not an elemental type damage, so it's not like arcane or anything. So I don't think you get to AB it. You can only use effects that prevent damage.
Yeah, just be prevention.
Mhm.
And they have Spell Void 2, which I think is actually really cool. These gloves are sick.
If you want to see how they work, go look up the first Battle Hard in Atlanta. Andrew Lorenz played in top 8 versus an Icelander. He was playing Lexi, and he shock charmered the Icelander multiple times. They had to read the card. It was great.
Right. They pitched maybe like 2 blues to it, and
Yeah, it was
Had
just like a
this-
total gotcha win. And it was like,
Yeah.
wait, what? It does that?
no blocks. Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's like no blocks, go to 2. It's like, actually go to dead, and you just kill them.
I mean, sometimes it's even if it's not go to dead, it's like now you get a bunch of frostbite tokens, or I proc the ability where you discard cards when you get hit multiple times.
Yeah.
Because it counts as a separate hit for each, so on hit things on attacks will hit multiple times. They're
Mhm.
really cool gloves. They don't block
They-
though.
Oh, well, they have spell void on them, so
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
your
They-
Kano hate, which is fine.
They block in their own right for the right
Spellvoid
matchup.
2, Spellvoid 2 is kind of crazy. Like
Yeah.
usable Spellvoid 2 is
It's like,
insane.
actually like could be her main arm piece. Spell Void 2. It's crazy.
Really? Do you have we'll talk about it.
We'll talk.
But I was
We'll
like
talk about it.
wondering
We'll
if you
talk about it,
have
yes.
if you find time to dump that many resources. But okay.
So, the little price tracker thing's a little skewed. They were roughly $40, sometimes even cheaper before the initial spike. $27 back in early June, which I think is pretty criminal. They've always been a pretty neat arm piece, and then now they've shot up. It is $72 for a Shock Charmers Rainbow
Wow.
Foil right now.
And cold foil, if you have one of them,
foil,
it's so beautiful. It is so pretty.
I gotta get me a cold foil. $85 for cold foil, not necessarily too far off. The reason is, I think we mentioned the whole print run last time. So Tales of Aria Unlimited actually has less overall boxes than Tales of Aria First Edition. Now, granted, doesn't mean there's more rainbow foils and cold foils or less, whatever. But New Horizons back in the heyday of Lexi was exactly identical, rainbow foil and cold foil, and usually that is not how that works. But Tales is a very weird set where they're usually really close, and it might just be because they're meta, they're competitive. That plays into it as well, but also just the collectability. I mean, if there's as much first edition, and it evens out. But I would definitely get yourself a pair of Shock Charmers if you want to pull the extra $13 for the cold foil. I suggest you do it. And the last tailored card to this before I just mentioned to like Meta Majestics is Grasp of the Arc Knight. Yes, it is a Runeblade Equipment Arms. Yes, we've talked about this card when it was so criminally low at $40 way back in the day, when I said, boy, oh boy, if we just get heroes that actually are good, that want to play this, it will go through the roof. This came out of our Arcane Rising, so good luck actually going and buying some, although I've recently just visited a shop that had Arcane Rising, which was the craziest thing I've ever seen. Fairly priced too. It was so wonderful to buy a box of Arcane Rising Unlimited from an actual LGS. Like, it just, like, online, sure, you can get anything you want, but like walking into a store and buying Arcane Rising Unlimited, that was really cool. They also had Crucible Unlimited. I was like a kid in a candy store. It was so much fun. It was sick. It was sweet. Grasp of the Arc Knights comes from Arcane Rising. It is a Runeblade Equipment Arms, blocks for 2. Battle Worn, which is insane. Once per turn action, costs 2. Create a rune chant token. This ability costs an additional 1 to activate for each rune chant you control. Go again. You could probably tell whether or not these are going to be used over Shock Charmers in certain matchups, Justin, or whether this is more of like, they're Runeblades, so we got to have them just in case, kind of a thing.
Yep, we can talk about it when we get there.
And,
okay.
But these gloves are incredible. They're like some of the highest value pieces of armor in Flesh and Blood.
They're battle worn.
You can almost build a deck around activating them almost every turn. It's very strong.
Well, we did at first with Vincent. It was like, we played every single 2-gate. You played a bunch of blues. You just pitched a rune chant, or pitched a blue, and you just 2-card aided people over and over and over again. And you died. But it was cool. We tried it. Good card.
$40 was when they were criminally low, and they are sitting at 62 right now, though they have seen peaks of close to 80. And so I would probably grab a pair right now while they're at 62, because if they spike back to 80, they're probably used and they're probably not going anywhere. And then just 2 quick mentions. Amnesia is probably going to be something on your radar for this meta. I would probably keep looking out for those if you haven't got a play set. They've dipped down a little bit to 15 from their $20 high. I think they're still really good, especially if Zen isn't going anywhere, or any other deck that relies on tokens, or heroes or cards that need to gain names. And then obviously I've said it like 400 times, but you need a play set of weakest links. Like they're at like 42 right now. They teeter around 45. There's a chance they go Warmongers and hit like 50, 60. Like, there really is a chance. I only have one weakest link, and it's like, I'm like sitting here like, do I want to buy the other? It's just like, I think I have to, and just set the play set aside. So even if I don't want to use them, you got to have them.
Yeah. It's a good card.
But that's it. That's it. We'll get into the actual nitty gritty of how all this plays out and how Aurora does.
Well, I got a price check for you, Noah.
Sure.
How much do you think the Kasai Command and Conquer cost?
Oh no,
Lord.
no, I didn't want to talk about that. Oh no.
So here's the thing: if Kasai was actually relevant, which I don't necessarily think hurts the card price at all, by
I
any
don't
means,
think it
by the way.
does.
In fact, I think because Kasai won it, which I think has the most waifu tax just out of any of them. I mean, Victor might have been a close second in terms of just like hoity-toityness, but like if anybody was going to get it, it'd be Kasai. I don't know, 1250, 1300 a piece. If I had to take a random guess.
I think that's a serious low ball. I think there was someone trying to sell a playset for 10K.
Oh, well.
There are like 3 people trying to get together, one each, and sell it to someone so they could have a playset for 10K. And I think that's considered a reasonable price for a playset.
There's what, 58 of these things?
Yes, it's something like 58.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the scarcity of that.
There's like none.
Well,
yeah, it's a like. I appreciate LSS trying to do different things and like trying to do different ways for pricing and promos and things like that, because that's a cool one. Tweak that one before you run it again. Like that's not good.
The problem is that either the allocation was suffering and there wasn't enough product, but if you remember, we had like a whole competitive season and there were no limited events. So it's like you had you had the pre-release basically.
All 3 events of that season here in Atlanta were constructed.
Yep.
It's like the closest
they were all constructed. If they were draft, it was like an anomaly because it's like...
No, it was in Alabama. That was the closest one because we thought about going to it. Because at that point, we felt like we were a little ahead on the draft format. And so I thought it was like a pretty free win. Or not free, because there's a lot of good players in Alabama, but you get the idea. Like, I thought I would be doing fine. But no, it's just like there's 58 of them, and that's it. That's all the Kasai's.
So what you just told me with that 58, by the way, is somebody's going to be really sad, because if there was 60, we'd at least have an even 20 play sets. And now we've got 19 with an extra card.
Oh, someone will have one they keep in their folder.
This is tough because like I actually really want a play set, which sucks because I'm gonna have to sell out for like I will, because I need them to go next to my fabled CNCs. Like I won't now. I have a new like chase and I hate it.
Yeah, fabled CNCs are basically common compared to those.
So here's the other crime that's been committed with these Kasai CNCs. They use an ampersand. All right, and it is in the rules and legality policy that card names are identical if all characters in the card name are identical. And ampersand is not and. Those are 2 different things.
Uh-huh.
So we're going to have to update the card policy. Otherwise, people can play Command and Conquer and Kasai and Conquer and just have 6 of them in your deck.
That's really funny.
Yes, like that's one of those things that like...
oops.
Yeah, it's an oops. They're gonna have to clean that one up.
Wait, does that mean I can play Lace with Bloodroot and Lace with Bloodrot?
I believe that's how that's supposed to work. But
until
there's got to be some sort of like
policy.
There's got to be some sort of like misprint policy.
I actually want to go check that. Is there like a weekend where I get to play 6 Lace with Bloodrot? Because that pump is good.
Yeah, someone put me on that. I'm gonna like dig into it further, but it was like a source that I actually trust was like going through the card policy and I was like, wait, this might be an issue.
If it's in the card policy, it's gonna be an issue.
They'll fix it. I'm sure they'll probably say similarities, or there'll be like a common sense clause to it.
There probably is like a common sense clause somewhere else in the rules policy that like catches something like this.
Yeah,
but it was just one of those things that someone sent it to me and I was like, oh no, please don't let that be real.
Right. If you guys have them, please. I want those Command and Conquers one at a time. I will figure out how to buy them one at a time until I have 3. I promise. I need them. I don't know why, but I have to have them. It sucks.
Fair enough.
So, quick mention to 2 new spoiler cards we picked up. The first one being Splatter Skull. It's a 2-for-6 block root card. When this hits a hero, choose a face down card in their banish zone that was banished by Intimidate. This turn, put it into their graveyard. I am unsure about this card until I play test it. It would clearly need to go into an aggressive Rhinar list. but it seems like it's one of those cards that does nothing until like things happen to line up, because it doesn't intimidate itself. So you need to either play like a barraging beatdown,
That's
or
exactly what I was gonna say. Like, that's sick though.
you gotta
Barraging.
do a wild ride or a pulping before to trigger and intimidate. It's definitely feels basically unplayable in Levia or KO, right?
But that's the goal, right? Because Reinar is the one who has zero representation.
Yep, Reinhardt's the one who needs help.
Yeah.
So my first thing, like, inclination on this card is, right, so the whole point of Intimidate is you don't actually get to block with the cards, which is also kind of like good and bad, right? Because sometimes you want them to block with the cards because then it just lessens the turn. But if you physically say, okay, all your cards are gone, you couldn't block anyway, we're like, well, at least I get to keep my cards, right? Like, at least I get a turn too. So this literally says, all right, well, you've got some cards in there and you got like a couple cards, but you can't actually block this out with the 2 cards left. So I'm going to take one of those cards that you think you're getting back and you're not getting it back anymore. Or you have to block.
A way you could look at it.
It seems pretty good.
A way you could look at it too is if they go, okay, I'm just not going to block and I'm going to clap back as hard as I can. And you go, well, you can do that, but you're going to lose a card. One of those random cards that you had no control over, you're going to lose one of them. And then you still took 6 damage, or you can give me 2 cards to prevent this.
So you like double barraging a Zen, and then you play this thing out, and you snipe the Art of War previously, and they can't shove the equipment in front of it because barraging beatdown says cards from hand. So if you're looking at something that's very relevant for the current meta, that's important. But I think the card is going to be we're going to have to play with a card. If you are on the Giga Intim deck, which I know there are some Reinars that absolutely adore and love that deck. This is a Windmill Slam 3 of. You're going to play 3 of them for the rest of your life, and you're going to make everybody hate you. But for like a more moderate Reinar deck, who knows? We'll see.
I give it like a B+. I think it's a great card. I think it sneakily makes Reinhardt more crafty.
I'll reserve judgment until I play test it.
For the Giga Intim deck, I think it's a custom card, but like, I don't know how good that deck is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Our next one is Flutter Steps. This is something up your alley, Justin.
The new moon shoes?
Yeah, the new moon shoes. By the way, they're super pretty. They're majestic that look like a legendary. When this is destroyed, you may play your next aura this turn as though it were an instant ward 1. This is clearly like the final shoe piece that Enigma New Moon needed. But yeah. I think there's some real playability to these, period.
Yeah, there's some cute stuff that you can do with it. I am not like, it's basically like an unconditional waning vengeance. No, not vengeful apparition. That's the card.
Mm-hmm.
It's that on a stick with ward 1. I don't really like those builds. I'm not a haze bending shimmers fan in Enigma, because I like special manifestations. I'm kind of addicted to that card when I play the deck. But if you are on those cards, that thing is a pain to deal with. Like, that is a nightmare.
Same thing with like an Aura Prism, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Start
yeah,
a turn 0 Pierce reality, like that you play on your opponent's turn. Sounds kind of cracked.
Yeah, like that. These can be annoying. These can be really, really annoying. And obviously they're like tailor-made for New Moon. Like, flip those up whenever you want and do the thing.
But I could see if, like, you're going second as Prism, you're worried about decks that like to kind of push into you because they basically always end the turn with an action point anyway, and they just try to catch you with nothing in your hand. And you put these out, now they have to think, do I potentially give Prism a free Pierce reality to start the game with? Because that's like giving Dash a Teclo Pounder, right? Except better sometimes.
Yeah. I think these are tough to beat out pathways for with Enigma, because like block hat, get chi, activate Enigma, turn on pathways to just like cover things up is so strong, especially if you have like a Mirror Guy or a Rage Spectre or something out already. But they're interesting, and there's something that illusionists are going to play with. Cool. Like, I think every illusionist from now until the end of time has to at least look at the card and think about it.
Other current events. We had a Battle Hardened this weekend in Sao Paulo. The top 8 was pretty diverse. It was still Zen heavy because there were 2 Zens, but the top 8 was Zen, Prism, KO, Victor, Zen, Riptide, Kano, Prism. That's their final placement order with, no particular order for the bottom 4. They lost in quarterfinals. No particular order for the bottom 2 in the semis. So the finals was Zen versus Prism. Pretty cool. Prism getting there to the end, wasn't quite able to take it down. Unfortunately, not able to watch the VODs, and I missed the stream because the VODs on Twitch are subscriber only.
Ooh.
I have sent a message to the person who streamed them to see if that was intentional, but if it is, that's a bit unfortunate. Oh well.
Ooh, what was the name of the gentleman who, the Brazilian who top 8'd Pro Tour LA? Was that Felipe?
I would have to check.
Yeah, I'm gonna do some scrubbing here for a second, but it's like, yeah, I'm not gonna find it immediately, but yeah, I mean, if you've paid attention to that scene, like I know the name Felipe, I know Hugo, or I know those names not pretty well, but like I see them around a lot. And it's just like you had very good players win this thing. It was 2 very, very good players ended up in the finals.
I think I recognized the 8th place person too. Mikel Verissimo del Silva Luis. Pretty sure I recognize that name too. Oh, there's another Felipe there. So there's multiple Felipes. But like Brazil has a pretty good scene. This was a 120 person.
It's strong.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
Brazil is very strong. Yes, I am always impressed with Brazil. Anytime that like I've ever traveled to an event and played anybody who's from Brazilian, watch their play on streams and things like that, it is always impressive. There's some very, very, very good flesh and blood happening in South America.
You get a chance.
The total meta was a little bit more balanced than we've been seeing too. Zen was at 14%, Victor 11.3, KO 10.7. So the top 3, only one of them was an MST hero. You had New coming in 4th at 10%, and then Azalea, Prism, Kano, and Dorinthia were all tied afterwards at 5.3%, and then it drops off from there. This is the meta I am expecting more of. I'm surprised that I hated on Victor at the beginning of it, but he's been performing pretty well. So this is what I'm kind of expecting to see. I'm starting Zen, Victor, KO, New.
Zen, some things that will beat Zen. So in this tournament, I'm guessing the Prisms and Victors are technically filling that role. Maybe the Riptide.
And Azalea.
And then
Azaleas can high roll the Zens too.
Yes, but didn't make this top 8, right?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So
nope.
Yep. That's kind of what you're gonna look at. And then like 1 or 2 decks like a Kano that are like they exist on some other axis.
Yep, your rogues. And then I think, did you mention how KO will always kind of be present because he can be as degenerate as Zen can be sometimes.
Well, his numbers are great, and Savage Sass is ridiculous. Like people forget, I think, how high that ceiling goes in terms of just absolute raw output. Not to mention complete unfairness with Blood Rush Bellows turns and so like it just
you have a
borderline
chance of,
unfair.
Yeah, you have a chance of like 8, 5, 10 occasionally.
Okay, so I did some digging. The Felipe who did win is the same Felipe who top 8'd that Pro Tour.
I mean,
good players.
So good players
are good. Yeah, good players are good, and that's something that, like, as much as I want to poo-poo on this format, because it's been fun to play, but not play against, and all the things. Like, your top 8 of the Pro Tour was still like a who's who, Pro Tour was a who's who, right? And like you go to various events, and it's like Charles Dunn won the calling. Like, that is a certified like absolute beast, right? It's your better players are winning in this format still.
Since it was a Prism v Zen in the finals, and I had a quick sec to look it over, I just want to point out that they have like a compare the decks, and the Zen that won actually teched in time skippers for the Prism matchup for ALS.
Yeah.
Very noteworthy. Also had more block 3 blues, and actually ran sync bliss. So I think the deck creation and the deck choices, the card choices actually mattered. He cut a piece of Spell Void. So little Kano disrespect. but respected the Prism, which I think was obviously the right choice. Played against the Prism in the finals, and we don't know if Time Skippers was used or not.
The person who got first has Spell Void 2 AB 2. They had a lot of respect for Arcane in their deck.
Well, the other Zen also had the same thing, including Spellfray Cloak. So one completely went all the way in. One said Time Skippers is more of a choice, which we don't know if it actually played into the Prism, but I'd like to think that they're like that was the key idea. If I go up against a Prism, if I'm looking at ALS, I need my Time Skippers. So it just, like you said, good players. Like he's running his Sinks, he's running his Time Skippers, he's coming prepared for the meta.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. That we covered everything that's happened in a week, and as usual, it takes like 40 minutes. The Flesh and Blood is a very active game. Yeah. So who is Aurora? Aurora is one of our next heroes in Rosetta, a Lightning Runeblade. The first impressions that we've been given is she plays on an axis a little bit different than Runeblades we've seen. Kind of closer. Seems like they're pointing her towards the way Cheerios Briar may have been played.
Yeah, so old head that Ario, this is actually, and this deck kind of has a special soft spot in my heart, was Lightning Briar was the first deck that I built. It was just got into the game, and you take all the commons that everybody gives you because it's a bunch of chaff, and in those commons is Lightning Surge and Ball Lightning and Scar for a Scar and Ravenous Rabble, and you're just like, let's just throw a bunch of those in a deck and see what happens. And the deck performed decently well back in the day. I obviously didn't have it tuned very well. It was the list to beat, won all the nationals that season. And what made it very powerful was that it acted on a couple axes. It was a lot of breakpoints, right? So you could just consistently kind of get to 14 to 16 value per turn. And it had a bunch of weird on hits because Ball Lightning is this very innocuous card that just did a bunch of damage. And this deck functions like that, in a sense. It's not true Cheerios, and that deck wasn't true Cheerios either. Somewhat, well, depending on the build, somewhere. If you were playing Yellow Rabble, you were true Cheerios. But this one is not going to be as Cheerios as that. Or Aurora is not.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the big difference between the two obviously has to be the weapons. Her weapon is Starfall. It's base 1. It's a once per turn action. Costs 1 to attack. And if you've played a lightning card this turn, it gets +1 and go again. And my goodness, that is a good weapon.
Yeah, a 1 for 2 go again. Seems quite strong.
1 for 2 go again fills in so many holes in a cost curve for her. It's just like if you ever just have a floating resource, you use Starfall. If you ever have 2 floating resources, you have a bunch of outlets, and we'll talk about those in a bit.
So it seems like the primary difference here is you're going to build your weapon where you used to build it around Rosetta Thorn. You're kind of, and that was your finisher a lot of times. You're going to be using other cards as finishers now, and you're going to weave the weapon Starfall in.
Yes.
In between.
And with Rosetta Thorn, you needed non-attack actions out the wazoo. There is no non-attack action requirement in this deck. Full stop. Like, if you play non-attack actions, it is purely because the non-attack action is a good card.
Yeah, like the new Lightning Nimblism.
Yeah, like Sizzle. Sizzle's it's a card. It does the job.
Is it not? It seems really good. Maybe.
Oh, it's good, but like it's a 3, right? Like it's 3 go again. It has its job. It's a starter. I've been playing with the deck, goldfishing it because I'm a psychopath and I like knowing things early. The one thing that you really, really notice about the deck is you always want a lightning starter in Arsenal. Like, that's the one thing that you covet, is always having a lightning card with go again in Arsenal. And your best one obviously is Lightning Surge. The 0 for 4 go again, if it's played out of Arsenal, gets go again, right? That's the best one that you could absolutely ask for. Sizzle is probably your second best one. Fry is in that same category. I don't really like Fry. I want to replace that card as quickly as possible.
Let's talk about it, because I think
Yeah.
the reason you don't like Fry is it's the very rare 0 block, not no block, 0 block attack.
Yeah. So Ball Lightning is this card's it's its ancestral, I guess, comparison. Because Ball Lightning was the same stat line. It was in red. And Fry is just 0 cost in red, 3 damage, 0 block, and it just says go again. It's head jab, but no block.
The lightning head
jab.
Yeah,
it was Ball Lightning was the same thing, except it had text on it that says whenever an attack action hit or whenever you deal damage this turn. It was worded poorly because it also worked with arcane damage. It was basically anytime you deal damage, deal 1 more. So like if you dealt 1 arcane damage, like if you sent 1 arcane ping and they didn't stop it, it dealt 2. And it was terrible. It was like
this doubled shock tremors too, didn't it?
It would double shock tremors. There was a card back in the day that we all played called Sting of Sorcery that basically says every attack action gets deal 1 arcane attached to it. And you would do like sting. So there's 2 arcane pings, and then you go ball. And it would, the first one, the arcane pings would come in for 2 each. And then the next one, they come in for 3 each because they amplify. And the last one, they came in for 4 each. And it was 2 sets of 4, 2 sets of 3, 2 sets of 2. It was a nightmare. So anyways, we're not dealing with that though. You have these lightning starters, right? So Burn Up Shock is like clearly the best one. It's when it hits, it's a 1 card 5, and we love 1 card 5s. But that and Lightning Surge are probably your 2 best ones. Fry and Sizzle, they're just like 3s that are just go again. I think 18 lightning cards with go again in red is going to be the magic number, because that's little more than 1 a hand, and you can always make sure that you have 1 in arsenal.
Okay.
Because not having 1 really sucks. Those are the turns that you feel it the most.
Kind of like playing Levia, right? Where you always want that banish 3. You want 1 in arsenal every turn. If you could end with 1 in arsenal, you know your next turn is good.
Does that mean she's going to be pretty susceptible then, I guess, to... I guess we could talk about potential matchups. We haven't seen the full toolkit, but like Assassins, because Assassins want to hit the arsenal, Brutes want to hit the arsenal.
So Arsenal hate is going to be very real against her, in my opinion. And that's been the Runeblade thing, right? Like,
right.
Viserai always had to put a Mauvrion Skies in arsenals. Briar, you had to count your cards, and if you had a bunch of non-attack actions, you had to put the attack action in arsenal, vice versa kind of thing. Chain, similarly, you put the go again in arsenal, or Art of War, because chain. But it is disruptive, or it is weak to arsenal stuff, and that's why I play Creepers and Grasp. In my main configuration is playing Creepers, Grasp, Balance of Justice, because your headpiece doesn't actually really matter for her. You don't need Crown of Providence because you have a bunch of lightning starters. They're fine. Like you don't get the Runeblade bricks with her. They're not very prevalent. So I play Creepers and Grasps just because that one time they're going to throw a CNC. You get 1 free CNC block with 1 card from hand. That doesn't really affect your turn, and then you still get to get in there.
Yep.
Like, snaps are a perfectly viable option. I think they're great. For me, Grasp versus Shock Charmers is, both of them are essentially pay 2 to dump a resource, right? Or pay 2 to deal 1 damage at some point, right? Shock Charmers are insane in the late game. Like, insane. Because if you ever go to 2, you're at 1. Right?
Because if you ever let a hit, you're just dead.
Yep, you are absolutely dead. Where Grasp is better at helping you get there because it blocks well, or it helps block break points, and if there's on hit something, it does help in those regards.
It lets you kind of like do something when you have nothing too. Like if you just end you have a blue Electrify left for some reason. You can throw that into Grasp and then pass. So at least you built up 1 point of value that you pass to the next turn. Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about Aurora, right? Is that you can go your lightning starter. Let's just say it's Lightning Surge this time, right? and we're getting towards the end game, and you want to accelerate the end game, and you already have a lightning starter that doesn't need go again, right? You just play the shock charmers. Like, you could just zap them with shock charmers and accelerate your game, right?
I just realized though that Starfall cost 1.
Yeah.
So it synergizes with both Grasp with the Arknight and Shock Charmers.
Yes.
So if you have Grasp, with a blue, you have one ping, a 1 hit, and a 1 ping. So you could in end game, you could potentially rip 2 cards out of someone's hand with a single blue, which is kind of wild. And then Shock Charmers is, if they're at 2, they can never just take the 1 hit because they'll die.
Yep. And I think there are going to be uses for both. In the aggro races, you're probably going to play Shock Charmers. In your like new matchup, Victor matchup, that kind of stuff, you're probably going to play Grasp. But I do think both get played. Because Charmers at worst is your Spell Void.
Yeah, it's just a Windmill Slamma versus Wizards.
Yeah. And at best, it's like a late game win con and aggro mirrors. So I like them both. And the other thing that has been interesting with her is 1 cost and 2 costs have felt really good. Because doing like Starfall into CNC is a 2-card 8. And I mean, 2-card 8 with an on hit, right? Like, and Starfall is this thing that just constantly whittles people down. If someone's trying to fatigue you, it's a thing that they have to look at and just be like, am I blocking this too? Like over and over again?
Yeah, like Lightning Surge out of Arsenal, pitch a blue to attack with Starfall, and then Command and Conquer. It's kind of good.
It's a 3-card 12 with an on hit. Like, that's really good.
That's really, really good, actually.
If your only 2 cards though are Starfall CNC, where's like it would just be 1, right? Because there's no lightning card, or is the actual?
You got to have a lightning starter. That's why I said the lightning starter is so important, because that's what gets you those crazy values. Like, because you can imagine, like, you could maybe even build your deck around that play line, which I see the list that we're referencing here kind of does, because you've got those powerful 2-for-6s in your sideboard with the 3 amnesias and 3 weakest links.
Yeah, and the other thing that's been a really impressive cost curve for the deck is 1 cost Starfall, 1 cost, right? And Lightning Form has been an overperformer. You don't really need go again in the deck if you build it correctly, but if you like have that one turn where Lightning Press has to be your starter, and you have to like give a thing go again, it's an all-star. Because it lets you do some sneaky lines. I'm currently playing E-Strike in the deck, because every once in a while you get an Embodiment of Lightning for free. Or like you just had extra resources. And E-Strike draw
7
card.
Again, or 0 for 5 draw card, Yeah,
0 for 5 draw card is a classic. It just fills a lot of holes. It's a 3-block. It's a good card. I'm currently testing Electrify, because it's a no-block, like Zen and other decks don't really like blocking. Like Nu doesn't really like to block, and she doesn't like to block 4. Right? Like 4 is a weird number for a lot of decks to block. So Electrify, if you just go like 4-4-5, right? Like a lot of decks don't like that. So being able to go like Electrify, Starfall, 0 cost extender, Lightning Form is good. Is really, really good. Or the other one that I'm starting to tweak or test around with is Art of War. Because same idea, Electrify, Art of War, Starfall, play all your 0s, get to work.
So yeah, speaking of like older cards, I see that you have Lightning Press in here. Is that same thing, kind of like tricky gotchas that you can play?
Tricky gotchas, yeah. It's like if you have an Electrify out and people are trying to block it, you just get them. Like that's a clean thing. I have had it to where it's like I just had an Embodiment of Lightning. Like Lightning Press is my card that I had to Arsenal from the previous turn, and I knew that, so I made an Embodiment of Lightning on the previous turn. So I went like I can't remember which one it was. I want to say it was Shockwave. It was like Shockwave Fused, and then I went Lightning Press. So now I had go again, and then I went Starfall Amnesia, and just like got somebody.
The base list that you have here actually seems really cheap.
It is.
Like there's almost no Majestics in this.
It is, and that's the things that we're going to be really looking for with Aurora in the set. We're
Mhm.
looking for 2 good lightning starters, 2 to 3.
Like,
Like
we
if
want
we
them
can
on like the
get
majestic power level, right? So you're getting like
yes,
6-ish points of value out of the card, just the
yes,
card.
I want 5 to 6 points of value out of some of these starters. Like if I can get that, we're cooking.
Yeah.
And I would like 1 or 2 more 1 cost good things to do. Like whether it's a lightning starter that costs 1 because doing like 5 go again into Starfall into 5 go again is really strong, or 5 with an on hit is really strong. And like those are the things that I'm really, really looking for. There's plenty of extenders already. Like you could even play Ravenous Rabble. That's a card that I've kind of looked at in the board. It's like you're going to be playing 15 to 18 blues is my guess, maybe 12 if you really don't want to do the like Starfall stuff and you want to be more Cheeriosy. But I really like, I think Rabble could see play if we just need more extenders.
Yeah.
You have a lot of options for 0 for 4s that are good. I just want more 1 cost things that are good.
Well, what's like your like wish list? If you could have like exactly the custom card you wanted,
Yeah,
what would it be?
Customize a couple
What's
of
your
cards. that you
custom
think fit in.
majestic that's
What's
making
my
this rock?
What is my
Yeah.
custom? Oh, and here's the other cool thing about her is she kind of abuses Channel Lightning Valley because she doesn't really throw Arcane. So citing in AB versus a Breakpoint deck is a real factor.
Oh, that's true.
Like you are making a decision that I am going to side in AB for shock specifically on the burn up side. And I had one more thing that does Arcane. Arcanic Shockwave are the only 2 real things that do Arcane right now in the deck. Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's Static Shock, but that's like an on-hit do Arcane. So you could just park a Lightning Valley in Arsenal, wait till you get Sigil of Suffering. Right? And this happens all the time in Aggro Mirrors. Like you play 2 of them and you're like, I don't know if this is ever going to happen. And then Lightning Valley is a +4 and you're like, oh, or it's like +3 because you go like Lightning Valley Sigil, then you go to your turn and you hit them and then you drew another card.
Yeah, that's really good. So
Yeah.
you just whichever one you get, you park in Arsenal till you get the other one, right?
Yes. And that is like the easiest win con for Aggro Mirrors. It's just like they don't pitch to AB. You have a Sigil of Suffering and Lightning Valley, and you draw a billion cards.
Yeah,
Good
if you
work.
keep Channel Lightning Valley around for 2.5 turns, I feel like it could be very difficult for anyone to beat that value engine.
Even if it only draws 2 cards, it's already like
Mm-hmm.
like insanely plus value, right? Like that's Codex levels. All other blind draws.
Right. So you get your first card immediately off the sigil, and
Yes.
then your second card you hopefully get on your turn. And if they
Yes.
spend the turn blocking you to not let you draw the card, then
Win.
hopefully you
We did it.
pitched a lightning card and you get to like do everything again the next turn.
Yep. It's a good card. Channel Lightning Valley is the broken card. I would like a good extender, like a 0 for 5 go again extender type. If you jump through a hoop,
If you've played a lightning card this turn kind of thing, like it has to have some
Yeah.
condition.
yeah, like if you played a lightning card and dealt arcane damage, right?
Okay.
So like you've played the burn up shock, you now get a 0 for 5 with go again. Right? Another like 0 for 5 with go again.
Or maybe if you've had an embodiment of lightning this turn,
Yeah, that would be a good
something
one. If you had a
that
body of lightning
synergizes
with
more
it.
with embodiment lightning, because I do see that's a little lax, right? There's not a lot of synergy with the embodiment lightning. It's just kind of there. When do you get to use her hero power?
So you use her hero power in a few scenarios, and it's the usual ones that I've ran into it with is one when you don't have a lightning starter, like you had to use your lightning starter and you didn't draw another one, right? So it gives you a bailout button to do the thing, or you drew E-Strike or Lightning Press.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you drew those, then it's like, all right, well, I'm just going to get free go again on the first thing I do anyways. Right? Because Lightning Press, if you press the first attack, now it is your lightning starter and you get to keep going.
Yep.
And if it's E-Strike, you get to do E-Strike draw a card, and E-Strike draw a card is crazy. And if you don't see a lightning card in your next 5, like that sucks. But like there's a lot of them in the deck for a reason.
Dude, Lightning Press is so scary.
Yeah.
If you were running Ravenous Rabble, you just like throw Ravenous Rabble out and they go, hey, that's no on hit. I'm disrespecting that. Take 7?
Yep. And because the card exists and you have it in your deck, people have to think about it in like late game scenarios.
Dude, and then if you have 2 blues, you could Shock Charmers.
Yep. Or you just go like press Charmers, Tunic Charmers, and you're like, oh, well, I'm dead.
Yeah, I actually might like rip this list on Talishar and see how it feels. This seems pretty fun.
Yeah. This is, yeah, she's going to be like, if you want to hand a new player a deck, or you just want to play like an aggro deck, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it does block decently well, right? They're like, you're playing some elemental cards, CNC, E-Strikes. I have Photon Rush in here. It's just a 0 for 3 go again.
Mm-hmm.
That if you've played a lightning card, it gets go again, but it blocks 3. That card is very replaceable. That's where I want my custom card to go.
Sad, because the art's so good.
The art is sick. It is so nice.
Yeah, some Stormlight Archive stuff going on in there.
Yeah, it really does feel like that. So you have that. Weave Lightning is the other one that can get a little sticky. I would like a better lightning starter there. That and Fry are the 2 that I want to replace.
But I'm not familiar with Weave Lightning. The next light or elemental attack action card you play this turn gains +3. If it's fused, it gains go again. 0 cost, 2 block, red.
Yeah, so it's the other lightning nimblism. The issue is it doesn't pump the weapon.
Right.
And it forces you to kind of play these elemental attacks. We haven't talked about them, but the elemental suite that I'm running, like the elemental Runeblade cards that I'm currently trying out, are Shockwave, Arcanic Shockwave. It's a 0 for 4, block 3. And if you fuse it, it throws 1 arcane ping.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a finisher. And it's a really, really nice finisher because it's essentially Lava Burst, right? Like,
yep.
It's a 1-card 5 because you want to have a lightning card be your arsenal target. So it's a really clean play pattern. Fuse with your starter for next turn, arsenal your starter. That one, Static Shock, is the lightning flow. When this hits a hero, if you've played a lightning card, deal 1 arcane. 0 cost, 4 damage, 3 block. It's a 0 for 4 base, 0 for 5 with if it hits. Those are good. Photon Rush is the one that we've already talked about. And then I am playing Shockwave and Vela Flash in blue. I currently hate both of those cards, but I wanted more 3 blocks. Like, I just wanted more 3 blocks. That's all I wanted at that point. I really want them to be blue block 3 lightning cards. That's what I want.
I started playing like at the tail end of Dynasty. Some of these cards like I've never seen before. Like Vela Flash, not even aware that was a card.
Vela Flash is a card that people are going to try to make work because it seems really cool, but then you realize your non-attack action count is way too low for it to be good. Like, for it to be what you want. Because Vela Flash, in red, it's a 1 cost, 5 power, block 3. If you have lightning fused with it, you may play, it's essentially Spellbound Creeper's text. You may play your next non-attack action as an instant.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, people are salivating over the idea
but what
of, like,
non-attack actions do you play that don't have go again inside of this deck?
No, so the idea,
generate an action point because of go again.
Yes. Yeah, the idea is you would go Vela Flash, fuse with Lightning Press, Lightning Form. Lightning Form's actually probably the best one. Fuse with Lightning Form from hand, and then you play either Burn Up or Shock, or Burn Up from Arsenal or Electrify from Arsenal, and you just totally get people.
All right, like, Burn Up Shock at instant speed seems
heinous. Like,
pretty crazy, actually.
Yes. Yeah. A Burn Up that you can hide is insane. Like, not letting that card be face up is so rude.
Because if someone plays a Vela Flash against you and you fuse it, if they don't block, they could be taking 7 +1.
They could be taking 4 plus. Well,
3
in
plus
blue,
4
yes.
+1.
Yes, in blue 3. If it's
the Vela
red,
Flash
it
blue.
would be. Yeah. It's a cool card, but like
it's a neat role player. It asks people to be really honest. Even if blue, if you have a single Burn Up Shock left in your deck, if they let that blue hit, that blue could be hitting really hard.
Oh, the other thing that I want her other hybrid card to be another 0 cost shock thing to do.
A 0 cost what?
Shock card, like anything with shock, because there's a cool end game that you can run into. where like you're at ones with each other and they're like tapping out to present lethal, and then you just have triple shock and you kill them.
Right. So you're talking about the meld cards, right? Just
Yes, I want
another meld with shock that's good for Lightning
Yes.
Runeblade.
Yes, because having that being a real threat, like she may honestly have one of the most insane end games for an aggro deck we've seen in a while.
Yeah. The burn up
there's a
shock
really high chance.
seems really fun.
Yes, it's a good card. It's going to be a real good card.
There's a high chance that there's a majestic meld card that they haven't unveiled.
I would hope so.
Obviously,
Mhm.
I think there's a pretty good chance.
I also hope there is at least a little bit of something that synergizes with meld. Like, have you played a card with meld this turn or something? Because I feel a little sad if it's just the dual card mechanic. I don't want to harp on it too much because I think we've talked about that in the past couple episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would think that there are going to be some majestic tier cards, but burn up shock is close to that already. It's kind of a 0 for 5 go again.
Yeah.
I didn't even think that there were ways to play it as an instant. That didn't even occur to me. That makes it a lot better.
So yeah, you can play it as an instant. That is one of the reasons I also like creepers. Is sometimes you can get tricky with electrify and burn up shock. It's like a Vela Flash at home. But like that's obviously not its main purpose, but it sometimes does that. You would much rather be spending the one on Starfall. But getting to play burn up as an instant when people can't see it is really good.
Well, can't you? So creepers just says activate this ability if you attack or defended with an attack action card this turn. So you could E-strike for 7, use Tunic, play burn up,
burn
right?
shock. Yep.
Okay, that's how do you defend that? That's like Dorinthia level, like mind games there.
3 cards, 7 plus 5, so 12. So you're at 12, right? Like they just no block it because it's a late game, and you're like, all right, cool, I'm going to present lethal back.
That's a 3-card 12 with 5 of it being hidden information. That's like I said, that's story. That's story. Yep. That's just a Nick.
Yep.
Wow. That's pretty intense.
I do think snaps do have a home in this deck because you have so many zeros.
Mm-hmm.
Like zeros and ones are just everywhere. And like there are some times where I wish I had them because you don't have the lightning starter in Arsenal, but you drew lightning surge, like specifically lightning surge, and you're just like, I wish this had go again right now. But I do think my deck building style is to be real conservative, real consistent first, and then build out from there and get more iterative and more aggressive into specific game plans.
Do we think that the game plan could evolve to, like, I think we talked earlier about like consistently just like throwing your hand at them every turn. Obviously, if you get a Arsenal, to maybe incorporating other cards that don't necessarily have go again, relying more on the hero power to set up like a I don't know why I can't think of the name of the embodiment of lightning, and then like letting it pass to like the next turn, like a setup turn and a down turn to sort of create like this embodiment of lightning for the next turn that has like a 5-card hand where you don't necessarily have to start with the go again starter. You can just off the rip go for something a little bigger, like
yeah. So I think that's how this deck's going to beat fatigue, and I do think fatigue is going to be an issue for this deck because when you play it, you burn through cards. If you're just like goldfishing this list versus Talishar, one, burn up shock is not coded yet, so every turn that you play it, just mark it down and add 5 to like add it to like your end game stats. But when you do, I think the lowest I've been is like 13-1, and the highest is like 14, like flat. So it's like very consistently in that range, and that's over like 15 turns. So like, and no one turn is like 20. They're all very, very, very consistent. But that's what aggro usually, or that's what fatigue usually preys on, is like, right, you're just very consistently doing that. So I want to see some way to beat fatigue. I don't know how that's going to happen yet.
It probably needs to be some manipulation of the same typical things we see that always beats fatigue, like big Art of War turn setups.
Yeah, like it's going to be some heinous, draw a bunch of cards on this turn.
A way of proccing Channel the Lightning Valley on your opponent's turn without losing a card from hand, just to get an extra
Tome
card.
of Lightning Inspiration. If you've played 2 Lightning cards this turn, draw 3. Like something, I don't know. Like,
yeah, let's just give everyone one of them, right?
Yeah, everybody, like, you know, books are good. We want people to be well educated. Okay, knowledge is good power. Let's just give everybody books.
Just play Tome of Findle.
Yeah,
but I mean, you've got a way to play it at instant speed.
Yeah, with creepers. But I don't know. But this is where I'm at for now. Obviously, this is nowhere near final. We have a bunch of cards to see.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting. When I saw Starfall, I didn't think much of it when it was spoiled. And then you play about 3 games with the deck, and you realize this might be the best card in the deck.
Which card?
Because Starfall.
The weapon. Yeah. I mean,
that weapon is super cool.
It does everything.
It's needle that doesn't break.
Yeah, it does everything. It's just like it's good rate damage. It turns things into 8s with on hits. It's just like it makes it to where no matter what hand you have, you can play it out. Because if you have 2 resources, you can do Grasp, Charmers, Embodiment. If you have 1 resource, you can do that. If you have a blue, you could always do Starfall into a thing, right? Like using a blue for Starfall plus Embodiment is 2+ go again, right? On a card. That's like a yellow Mavrian Skies hitting, right? Like that's good. That's not great, but it's at least good. So I'm a huge fan of Starfall.
Well, we will put the list in the description of the video if you haven't already clicked on it at this point. That way you can try it out yourself. Keep in mind that Burn Up and Shock is not properly coded in Talishar. It's not going to work, so you might want to try it out on Tabletop Simulator instead. Anyone else got anything they want to say before we wrap it up?
When do we do like Terra? Is Terra next week?
Yeah, we can.
Or do we just forget
Florian,
about Terra and we go to Florian and Verdant?
I mean, we could talk about Terra because Blitz is coming up. And
No.
Maybe Terra is a valuable Blitz deck. Maybe Earth Guardian can weather the storm and live against Zen, which is even more degenerate.
If you're not living against,
I don't want to
Zen,
talk about Blitz.
You're
I'm
not
gonna go ahead and put that out there.
Blaze.
Like if we're talking about Blitz, go play Zen. That's it. LL format is so much more interesting to talk about. That format is super cool right now.
Blaze is also really nasty.
Blaze is good, yes, but Zen is Zen.
I've been watching some games on Talishar, just poking around the Blitz games, and it's like I see all these fun Blitz heroes. I'm like, oh, I've never seen this Blitz hero. Let's see how this goes. Turn 2 dead to Blaze, and I'm just like, oh, okay, well, that's Blitz. See you later. Like that was a really fun interactive game, man. I was reading the cards. I was like, wow. I was like, that's gonna hit again. It's just like, yeah, Sonic Boom. Play the card from Sonic Boom off the top. You're dead from the amp. It's like, oh,
yeah. They probably shouldn't have let Red Cindering be around. That's probably the card they should have hit.
Cindering, that is exactly the card he played.
Really it's like the perfect card for her. It's like her.
It is tailor made. Yes,
yeah. It's nuts.
They made the hero to fit the card.
Yeah, they were looking at the wizard pool and they were like, "What card can we make that is like built around this one card?" Right? They took the card and they're like, "We're gonna make a hero around this card," and it was Cindering Foresight.
Okay.
Let's get all your
No, no. Where can everyone find you?
Bro, right here, right now on this podcast. No, twitch.tv/BigMax and at BigMaxFab on Twitter, and hopefully streaming some games of Azalea or something this Sunday or something like that. I need to do another stream, so on the actual Siblings YouTube channel, or Discord, BigMax on Discord.
Justin?
J_EVS5. It's Jevs5. That's me. And then on Discord at Jevs05. If you want to talk Aurora or just yap about any of the new heroes, I'm there.
Or Wizard. Or Enigma.
Yeah, new heroes. Yeah, new heroes. All of them are fine. Enigma's cool, but not a Rosetta hero, so we're okay.
You can find me at Wet the System Fab on Twitter and Wet the System all over Discord. Let's not forget about our buddy Donnie, who is taking a short leave while he does school stuff. He's usually, I think he's still writing his articles for Fabric, even though he's taking a break from the podcast. So make sure you check out fabric.gg. He goes by Donnie K on there. If you see people chatting on the YouTube during events, that's probably actually still Donnie. So
it is. It's him.
Anyway, Thanks for joining us, everybody. We hope you enjoyed catching up with us this week. And if you did, subscribe or follow, depending on where you found us, to catch us again. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and remember, we are all siblings in cardboard.
You know, it'd be a really good card for Aurora. Pummel. Goes in everything. And when you get hit by it, you discard your card.
She's got
Goes
You're
right in the
playing
graveyard.
CNC, you're playing
CNC too,
Amnesia,
Nick.
Weakest Link, you just threw the
Whoa!
pummel. We got
Pummel.
9 targets already.
All
Put
right.
those
No.
pummels in.
No.
Pummel.
But you got to
grave-
discard to it, though.
You do. You do. D cheat.
Mhm.
Take care.